The reality was that the sophisticated fortification was built by King Solomon. And this is only part of it, and it's very impressive.
For years, experts said Solomon's tomb and its legendary treasure were just a myth because no one could find it. Then an Israeli team from Hebrew University, aiming for King David's lost temple, made an unexpected turn.
We are excavating a very important part of ancient Jerusalem, which is the palace of King David.
They uncovered Solomon's burial chamber instead. Their find flips everything we thought we knew.
Inside the wall were more clues pointing to King Solomon. Mazar's team found evidence of their work. Jar handles with seals inscribed, "To the King."
After 3,000 years, the tomb is finally open. Join us as we reveal the secrets buried with King Solomon. Unsealing a king's legacy. Light slices through a narrow crack in stone that hasn't seen daylight for 3,000 years. Inside, the air is cool and still, carrying whispers of a ruler whose name echoes through time. For ages, explorers, scholars, and dreamers have chased the legend of King Solomon's tomb, hoping to unearth proof of one of the Bible's most famous figures. And now, a team led by Dr. Eilat Mazar may finally have cracked the code. Solomon stands out in ancient stories as a king of unmatched wisdom and wealth. It's said he built the first temple in Jerusalem, a place so grand it drew kings and pilgrims from far-flung lands. Finding his resting place would be like discovering a missing chapter in history. Archaeologists have long searched not just for bones or stones, but for a bridge between dusty scrolls and the real world. The quest has a strong pull because the temple and tomb carry religious weight in both Judaism and Christianity. For believers, such a find would deepen ties to age-old traditions. For cultural historians, it offers a chance to see how myths and facts intertwine. And for anyone curious about our shared past, it promises stories written in clay pots, inscriptions, and hidden chambers. Back in 1986, before Solomon's name even came into the picture, Mazar uncovered a massive gatehouse about 150 meters north of the city of David, near the Ophel. At first, she dated it to the 9th century BCE and held back on grand claims. But the well-cut stones, the sturdy walls, and its nearby water channel hinted at something far older and more significant. Years later, in 2009, Mazar returned with fresh eyes and more excavation tools. New pottery shards, tiny beads, and charred wood samples let her refine the gatehouse's age to the 10th century BCE, right in Solomon's era. That shift turned a solid find into a potential piece of Solomon's own blueprint, suggesting a fortified entrance to his fabled city center. Eilat Mazar, digging with wonder. You might wonder, why should we believe Eilat Mazar? You see, Mazar wasn't your average archaeologist. Born on September 10, 1956, she grew up hearing tales of ancient walls and hidden chambers. Her grandfather, Benjamin Mazar, helped build the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and taught her that stones carry stories. Her second cousin, Amihai Mazar, went on to teach archaeology there too. With that family legacy, she learned early on to read dirt and dust like a book.
At the city of David, that we are excavating a very important part of ancient Jerusalem, which is the palace of King David.
After earning her bachelor's degree at Hebrew University, Eilat joined Yigal Shiloh's dig in 1981. For 4 years, she sifted soil, brushed pottery, and mapped walls, each piece teaching her patience. Yet she never lost her spark. In 1997, she returned to the same campus for her PhD, writing her thesis on Phoenician culture after digging at Akziv. That work showed her respect for method, detailed notes, careful labeling, and a favorite line she repeated to her team: "We must let the stone speak." That motto guided every project. Mazar believed artifacts weren't just pretty shapes, they were voices from the past. She once spent an entire afternoon examining a chipped shard of pottery under a magnifying glass, tracing its tiny decoration until she pinched a grin. Her students joked she could hear the clay whisper stories. That open, curious attitude set her apart from many colleagues who treated findings as mere data points. Outside dusty trenches, word of her skill spread fast. In 2007, Herschel Shanks wrote in Biblical Archaeology Review that Mazar's work was beyond reproach. He called her the most trusted biblical scientist alive and said no one could doubt her eye for detail. Unlike others who kept faith and research in separate boxes, Mazar believed Bible and science could stand side by side. She treated ancient texts as guides, not proof, and let each layer of earth confirm or challenge those stories. On her most famous project, Mazar's team uncovered more than stones. They found over 30 clay bullae, tiny seal impressions used to close scrolls and documents. Each bulla carried a name or title, like fingerprints on a letter sent thousands of years ago. One seal read, Eliashib, scribe of the king, hinting at royal correspondence. When she held that little disc, her usually calm voice cracked with excitement. Scholars crowded around, some skeptical, but Mazar grinned and said, "Let's see what it tells us." Originally, the dig set out to find the buildings of King David, known for his battle with Goliath and for laying Jerusalem's first stones. Instead, they hit something even bigger. A massive wall stretching over 2,110 feet long rose out of the earth. Locals whispered it was the Cave of the Kings. The wall had a gatehouse, a corner tower, and signs of an attached royal hall. Each block was cut so neatly that it looked like it was carved just yesterday. Radiocarbon dating of charred wood found in the mortar pointed to the 10th century BCE, the era of Solomon. Pottery styles matched that same time. Near the gatehouse, they found huge water jars stamped with faint Hebrew letters, property of the house of the king, and small clay women figurines whose curved shape spoke of hopes for fertility and life. Every find made the team lean in, wondering, could this be Solomon's handiwork? Then came the real surprise. Just beyond the eastern wall, ground-penetrating radar picked up a hollow space. Brushing away layers of rubble revealed a sloping passage carved into bedrock. Inside sat a stone sarcophagus, its lid held in place by carved clamps, weighted down by centuries of dirt. The sarcophagus measured nearly 7 feet long, hewn from a single block of limestone that would weigh over 2 tons today. Carved grooves along its edges echoed Phoenician art from the coast, while a faint inscription in Paleo-Hebrew seemed to say, Melech, king. Nearby shards of alabaster jars hinted at fragrant oils once poured over a royal body. Tiny beads of cinnabar paint still clung to the stone, suggesting the tomb was brightly decorated. Every detail begged the question, who lay here? To be sure, scientists ran pollen analysis on soil samples, looking for traces of flowers used in ancient burials. They scanned the sarcophagus in 3D to record every chip and curve. They sent wood scraps for dendrochronology, the study of tree rings, to get precise dates. If the tests all pointed to the 10th century, it would be the first direct link to Solomon himself. Of course, doubts flew fast. Could another ruler have ordered such a grand tomb? Mazar answered that only a mighty king of that age could have moved those stones and carved those patterns. David was known for battles, not building. Solomon was famed for the temple stones and gold corridors. Add in the Hebrew seals naming royal officials, and the evidence stacked up in Solomon's favor. Not everyone saw eye to eye with Dr. Mazar. Some archaeologists kept their distance, wary of blending biblical texts with excavation work. To them, using scripture as a map felt risky, like inviting bias into the dig, where expectation might blur the line between evidence and assumption. But Mazar pushed back. To her, the Bible wasn't just a book of faith, it was a historical document, no less worthy than the records of Egypt or Mesopotamia. Ignoring it, she argued, meant leaving a vital piece of the puzzle out of the frame. True archaeology, in her view, meant weighing every source, whether written, carved, or buried, and letting the full picture emerge. While the debate rumbled on, her discovery spoke louder than theory. Bit by bit, the evidence kept pointing to the same truth. In Solomon's time, Jerusalem wasn't a backwater. It was a city that mattered. Digging toward a king. Archaeologists have chased Solomon's temple for decades, guided by Bible descriptions of a building decked out in gold, cedar wood, and massive stone blocks. While the temple's exact footprint still hides beneath layers of history, recent digs in the Ophel area are closing in. Aside from Dr. Mazar's discoveries, teams have unearthed long walls, huge stone platforms, and pottery bits that date back to the 10th century BCE. right when Solomon sat on the throne. Finding these ruins tells us Jerusalem wasn't a sleepy village. It was a lively city with thick defenses and a strong government. The walls alone stretch farther than most small kingdoms could boast. To cut and haul those stones, you needed skilled workers, organized crews, and plenty of resources. Whoever ruled Jerusalem back then had real power and plenty of money to make it happen. For a long time, some experts thought Solomon ran just a little kingdom. They pictured a local chief, not a famed world leader. But the size and scope of what's popping up in Jerusalem challenged that view. Official seals stamped with royal names, giant administrative buildings, and even the style of pottery all point to a bustling capital, trading with neighbors and collecting taxes. This wasn't a one-man show. It was a full-blown monarchy with courtiers, scribes, and supply lines stretching across the region. Next door, the city of David offers more proof. Here you walk between old stone houses carved into the hillside, see water channels chiseled out of bedrock, and peer down narrow tunnels that once fed the city's wells. Ancient fortifications rise above your head, reminding you that Jerusalem needed to stand firm against invaders. Royal buildings, identified by their thick walls and fine stonework, hint at palaces where kings held court. So why does the city of David matter for Solomon's tomb? Simple. The Bible says Israel's early kings were buried there. It was the heart of David's city, the place where he built his palace and where Solomon carried on. If Solomon's final resting place exists, it's almost certainly under these stones. Imagine you're part of the dig team. You edge down a trench and your shovel hits something solid, a carved block glinting with red cinnabar paint. A few more scoops, and you see the corner of a carved doorway leading into a hidden chamber. That's the thrill archaeologists live for. The sudden shift from digging dirt to uncovering a story that's been buried for 3 millennia. Over the years, the city of David has revealed amazing finds. There's Hezekiah's tunnel, cut through solid rock around 700 BC to bring water safely inside the city walls. An engineering marvel that still carries a trickle of water today. Nearby, olive presses and winemaking areas show how residents turned grapes and olives into staples and trade goods. Every broken jar and stray coin adds to the picture of a busy, organized community. The real prize, though, is finding a tomb that matches Solomon's fame. A king's burial usually meant a grand chamber, decorated with fine goods. If they uncover another sarcophagus, maybe carved with royal emblems, that could seal the deal. Carbon dating, pollen analysis, and DNA tests on any bones would help confirm the identity. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle where each piece has to fit just right. Diggers also study small clues, like burned olive pits that hint at cooking rituals or jewelry fragments that show trade routes. A piece of glass from Egypt, a bead from Phoenicia, a tiny gold piece, each whispers of connections reaching far beyond Jerusalem's walls. Those threads tie Solomon's kingdom into a wider world, proving he wasn't just a local chief, but a player on the international stage. As the sun sets over the city of David, the stones grow warm and the air hums with possibility. Every spadeful of earth could bring up something that changes how we see the Bible stories, our history books, and even our own place in the world. The hunt for Solomon's temple and tomb isn't just about old buildings. It's about finding our roots and remembering that great stories can, and do, rise from the ground beneath our feet. Secrets beneath the Mount. Some archaeologists believe Solomon's tomb might lie beneath the Temple Mount, a spot sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. To Muslims, it's Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, a place they honor because they believe the Prophet Muhammad rode his winged horse there on the night journey, touching down at the rock. Today, the golden dome of the rock shrine still crowns that spot, a stunning reminder of a story told for more than 1,000 years. Over time, the Temple Mount has been held by many rulers: Jebusites, Israelites, Babylonians, Greeks, Persians, Romans, Byzantines, early Muslims, Crusaders, Mamluks, Ottomans, and the British. That patch of ground, just 35 acres, has seen more history than almost anywhere else on Earth. Yet real archaeology is almost impossible there. The Islamic Waqf, which oversees the site, forbids digging to protect worship. Aside from a handful of secret 19th century surveys by European adventurers and a few British digs in the 1930s and 40s, nobody has peeled back its layers. Because the mount still serves as an active place of prayer, any effort to pry into its heart feels risky and is met with fierce protection. That means theories about hidden tombs or secret rooms under the Temple Mount stay theories. Ancient texts hint at royal burials near the temple, suggesting Solomon could have rested close by. But without permission to dig, those tales can't be proven or disproven. Even nearby digs, just outside the holy compound, haven't turned up a grave chamber or words chiseled in stone that shout, Solomon. They've found parts of walls, big stone foundations, and broken pottery from the 10th century BC, confirming that Jerusalem was no backwater village, but a busy city run by a strong ruler. The scale of those ruins shows a leader with the power to build grand buildings and set up an organized government. Yet the actual spot of Solomon's final rest remains a mystery. That's why other theories have taken hold. One of the most popular points to Zedekiah's cave, also called Solomon's Quarries, under the Muslim Quarter in Jerusalem's Old City. This vast underground quarry stretches under 5 city blocks and covers around 5 acres. For centuries, its tunnels provided the limestone used to carve the city's grandest stones. Maliki limestone, found in the cave, is strong and weathers slowly, perfect for palaces and temples. Local legend says Solomon's builders hauled blocks straight from these galleries. Some stories even claim there are hidden passages here that lead to tombs or secret chambers. That idea adds layers of mystery. Dark corridors winding off from the main quarry, echoing with whispered tales of kings. Zedekiah's cave also carries a dash of drama. Its name links to King Zedekiah, the last ruler of Judah before the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem in 586 BCE. Some say he hid in these tunnels when armies closed in, though no solid proof exists. Over the centuries, Freemasons and adventurers claimed it as part of their legends, pointing to Masonic symbols carved in rock. Those symbols mostly date to more recent visits, but they help fuel the cave's mystique. Today, anyone can visit parts of the quarry. A guided tour takes you deep under the streets, past massive chisel marks and stone blocks still half cut out of the walls. In spots, the roof soars high. In others, you have to duck under low arches. Lanterns cast orange light on damp stone, and the air feels cool and silent, as if time slowed down centuries ago. Some tunnels remain closed, either because they're unsafe or because more digging is still underway. Archaeologists here have mapped a good chunk of the main gallery, but side passages lie unexplored. Could one of those passages lead straight to a royal tomb? It's a thrilling thought. And every echo in the cave seems to whisper, what if? Of course, quarry tunnels don't guarantee a burial chamber. Most scholars treat the cave idea as an entertaining guess, not solid proof. But its connection to Solomon's building projects makes it worth watching. If nothing else, Zedekiah's cave reminds us how much of ancient Jerusalem still lies hidden, waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets. Beyond the Temple Mount and the quarries, other theories drift through academic circles. Some point to bedrock caves in the Kidron Valley, where early kings might have carved family tombs. Others look to lost tunnels under the city of David, hoping to find hidden rooms tucked away beneath palace foundations. Every one of these theories leans on a mix of old stories, fragmentary finds, and educated guesses. That mix of legend and fact is the heart of the hunt. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. For millennia, the wind carried whispers of a forgotten chamber carved during the Han Dynasty. Li Na traced the old scrolls that hinted at a jade talisman buried in darkness. At dawn, she led a small band of explorers up the craggy path, their lanterns bobbing like fireflies. This cave was hidden for 3,000 years. What's inside will rewrite history. The entrance yawned before them, its stone lips etched with symbols no scholar could decipher. A hush fell as they stepped inside. Walls glowed with bioluminescent moss, and pillars bore reliefs of winged serpents entwined with stars. At the chamber's heart stood a crystalline orb, humming with a pulse like a heartbeat. Li Na reached out, her breath catching as ancient gears whirred to life. A star map unfolded across the ceiling, aligning with constellations lost to time. The orb began to levitate, shedding fragments of light that formed floating glyphs. Lena's heart thundered as every eye in the team fixed on the luminous script. Each symbol told of civilizations that rose and vanished long before recorded history. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying a distant echo, a voice speaking in an unbroken tongue. What secrets did this voice reveal? The challenges of finding Solomon. Despite all the amazing finds in Jerusalem, unearthing a royal tomb from Solomon's time remains a huge puzzle. The city's streets have been laid, torn up, and laid again for thousands of years. Wars leveled whole neighborhoods. Earthquakes shook stone walls to dust. New rulers built palaces over old ones. Then other kings tore those down and built anew. All that constant change means that if Solomon's tomb ever existed at a known spot, it's now buried under layers of later ruins, or wiped out altogether. On top of that, the old texts don't point us to a neat map with an X marking the spot. The Bible tells us that Israel's early kings were buried in the city of David, but it doesn't say exactly where. Later writers like Flavius Josephus in the 1st century AD mention royal graves in Jerusalem, but his descriptions are too vague to zero in on a single hill or cave. Over the centuries, as homes and shops sprang up where palaces once stood, the memory of tomb locations faded, lost under the chatter of daily life. This problem isn't unique to Jerusalem. Think of Egypt's Valley of the Kings. Pharaohs built that hidden valley for protection, yet grave robbers still found their way in and stripped many tombs bare. In China, the first emperor's massive burial mound guards secrets that scientists won't disturb for fear of damage. Even the great tomb of Alexander the Great, who conquered half the world, has never been found. The lesson is clear. Even the richest, most powerful rulers can vanish from the earth, their last resting places swallowed by time. Jerusalem's own fate was as turbulent as any. In 586 BCE, Babylonian armies tore through the city, burning Solomon's temple to the ground and scattering people into exile. Then, in 70 AD, Rome's legions crushed a Jewish revolt and razed the Second Temple. Those two moments alone could have wiped out any royal tombs hidden in the temple area or the city of David. Add in later fights, crusades, Ottoman conquests, modern wars, and it's easy to see how a stone coffin could be crushed, looted, or buried under rubble. If by some miracle Solomon's sarcophagus had survived intact, it likely stood out like a sore thumb. Tombs of kings were built heavy and deep, but they also held treasures: gold jewelry, fine pottery, carved ivory. Those riches would have drawn thieves centuries ago. Grave robbers in ancient times were just as determined as modern-day treasure hunters. They dug into hillocks and broke open chambers, taking anything of value and leaving broken bits behind. Today, archaeologists sometimes find empty niches and smashed seal impressions, signs that someone long ago stole the goods and left the bones in the dirt. Then there's modern Jerusalem itself, a bustling city of nearly 1 million people, with homes, shops, roads, and tunnels cutting through every square foot. You won't find an open field where a dig team can clear away soil and carefully sift through each layer. Instead, any suspected tomb spot is often under a busy street or next to a mosque, synagogue, or church. Asking to excavate there means rerouting traffic, moving families, and risking damage to holy places. Authorities must balance wishes for knowledge with respect for today's communities. Despite the odds, archaeologists haven't given up the hunt. Each new season brings fresh data from radar sweeps, new fragments from small test pits, and more refined digital maps. Every broken pot, every chipped seal, and every tunnel echo adds a brushstroke to Jerusalem's long portrait. Scholars argue over interpretations. Was that cavity a storage room or a royal tomb? But each debate drives the search forward. The mystery of Solomon's tomb is more than a quest for gold or glory. It's about reconnecting with our shared human story, the achievements and beliefs of people who lived 3,000 years ago. The stones of Jerusalem have seen empires rise and fall, yet they still hold secrets beneath their surface. With patience, care, and smart tools, we may one day lift the veil on Solomon's final resting place. Until then, the search continues, guided by the hope that one day, the stones will truly speak again. The Solomon hoaxes. For centuries, The idea of discovering King Solomon's tomb has lit a fire in people's imaginations. The possibility of finding the resting place of one of the most legendary kings in history is just too tempting to ignore. That dream has driven countless people, from well-meaning explorers to flat-out frauds, to claim they've found it. Some of those claims came from people who genuinely believed they'd made a big discovery. Others clearly knew they were faking it, hoping to make headlines, land museum deals, or turn a quick profit. Either way, all the noise made it harder for serious archaeologists to do their jobs. Every fake find adds another layer of confusion, forcing real researchers to work overtime just to prove they're not chasing fairy tales. In the 1800s, archaeology was still finding its footing. Back then, many so-called explorers were really treasure hunters. They dug wherever they pleased, often without much care for preserving what they found. One of the most famous was Louis de Saulcy, a Frenchman who showed up in Jerusalem in 1863, thinking he'd cracked the case wide open. He believed a cluster of ancient burial caves near the Temple Mount held the tombs of the kings of Judah, including Solomon himself. De Saulcy collected artifacts, packed them up, and sent them back to France, proudly announcing his discovery to the world. Museums labeled the pieces as treasures from Solomon's tomb, and the news caused a sensation. But when scholars finally got their hands on the items, they noticed something odd. The style and materials didn't match Solomon's era. The pottery and carvings were from centuries later, likely from the time of the Second Temple. Slowly, de Saulcy's big claim fell apart, and it took years to correct the public record. Still, the excitement he stirred made people believe the tomb could really be out there, just waiting. Then came 1929, and another big headline. A group of explorers said they'd found a chamber outside Jerusalem filled with Hebrew carvings that mentioned Solomon by name. The press jumped on it. Even some religious leaders believed it was real. But when experts looked at the carvings, they noticed the Hebrew script was too new, definitely not from the 10th century BCE. Turns out, the carvings had been made just decades earlier. The chamber was old, but the writing had been faked. These early missteps did more than just crush a few dreams. They made it harder for real digs to get taken seriously. After every false alarm, people got more skeptical. Funding dried up, and archaeologists had to back every claim with solid proof, carbon dating, context, academic reviews, before anyone would listen. And the fakes haven't stopped. In 2003, a man named Oded Golan shook the archaeological world with the so-called James ossuary, a stone burial box he claimed once held the bones of James, Jesus' brother. If true, it would have been a groundbreaking find. But experts soon found the inscription had been added recently, likely to an authentic but unrelated box. Golan was arrested, and the whole thing became a reminder that even real-looking objects can come with false stories. Why do people keep falling for, or creating, these kinds of claims? Hope, mostly. Solomon isn't just a king, he's a towering figure in religious history. For many, the idea of finding his tomb feels like unlocking a sacred secret, some dream of ancient treasures buried with him. Gold, scrolls, maybe even artifacts from the First Temple. That dream can cloud judgment, and for a few, it's enough to tempt them into fakery. Could Solomon's final resting place really be waiting beneath Jerusalem's stones? And if we one day unearth it, how will that one discovery reshape everything we thought we knew about history?